Hello, listeners. We are your co-hosts, Janine Bailey and Marie Quigley, for the Empower World Coaching and Leadership Podcast. Empower World brings guests who are making a difference to the world to inspire coaches and leaders who lead with mind, heart, and soul.
Hello and welcome to our next podcast episode. My name's Marie Quigley, and yay, we're together, Janine Bailey.
And we are. I'm delighted to be in this Zoom room with you today, Marie.
Great. And you've been back in the UK for a few months, Janine, settling in. So I'm hoping it's all going well.
Yes, it's been what's the word to use? There's been lots to do. Let's put it that way, in so many different shapes and forms. But it's certainly character building and moving countries. And now moving into our temporary home, at least. But I still have in my background, for those who can see our podcast today, my old background, my swimming, what do we call that? My usual swimming place. So I'm missing that.
Well, hopefully you'll find an unusual swimming place. Your next swim.
Yes, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about swimming in the UK. It does feel a bit cold. Sorry. Not sure I'm quite that brave. Who knows? Could be. Could be.
Exactly. So we were talking before the podcast and thinking about some of the things that are coming up in our mentoring with our coaches, our lovely coaches who are moving towards credentialing. And one of the things that we were talking about was the question about systemic coaching. And I know when I trained as a coach initially, that term systemic coaching, it felt a bit alien, actually. It felt a bit academic. I remember thinking, what on earth does that even mean? So we thought, why don't we get on a call and talk about it and unpack it, and then in our usual way, look at it from a practical sense, supporting coaches to think about how they might already be using systemic questions and processes to help their clients' thinking.
Yes, thank you, Marie. And like yourself, to hear the term systemic coaching, I too wondered, what is it really about? Is it as simple as it might seem? But it perhaps because there is this emphasis on it, that it is more complex, more academic, more formal. So, and as we've gone along in our coaching journeys and in the training that we do, we really do want to support our clients to understand systemically what the implications of their choices and decisions or their strategies are having. So from our perspective, when we think about systemic coaching, it's really asking questions to support the client to understand the broader context or the impact or the ripple effect of what they're choosing, what they're doing, what their decisions are. So we really do, as coaches, we want to support our clients to become aware of the implications of what they're becoming aware of, consciously aware of. And that could be both in terms of what is it costing you? So that's an example of a systemic question that asks our clients to reflect upon what's the deeper impact of that old strategy. But it's also wanting our clients to connect with what is possible and what is true for them and what are potentially their values, or how this choice or decision or action connects to what's really most important to them, to potentially tap into their intrinsic why, their inspiration for creating change. So that might sound like, so that decision you're making, how does that impact your team, your organization, your family, your legacy? So that's just one example of another example of what a systemic question might sound like. What comes up for you, Marie?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a really simple way of showing how one decision has a knock-on effect, a domino effect. How you're being in the world has an impact on everything around you. It's like that saying, the butterfly that flaps its wings in the Amazon impacts the tsunami that happens at the other side of the world. So it's thinking about everything that you are in your own life is going to impact the wider system, for want of another word, whether it's your present, whether it's your future, and also recognizing that your past has also had that systemic influence on where you are now. So those defining moments in your life, how are they still impacting you now? And if, as you mentioned, if you don't become aware of those, the impact of those, how it's going to continue to impact you in the future. And if you do become aware, then what is the future? What's the different future going to be for you? If you think differently, if you breathe differently, if you use your body in a different way, what's the impact going to be down the line? So for me, systemic really is thinking about what's the impact on other areas of my life.
And on other areas of your life, and how does that then impact others that are important to you, others that you serve and support, and also your future? How does that impact your future experiences, emotions, etc., etc.? And how does that then potentially impact the wider system? Going back to your metaphor of the butterfly in the Amazon, how it can create a tsunami elsewhere in the world. So we really do, we share this in our training, and when we're mentoring our clients, when we're coaching our clients, we're very very much aware of supporting our clients to create that wider, more expansive understanding of the implications of, again, their decisions, actions, emotions, energy, their ways of being, and so much more. So, and we know that we share this, and yet perhaps this learning doesn't land for coaches, for new coaches. So we wanted to record this session so that potentially you might hear it again and recognize, actually, this can be really, really powerful for me as a coach to support my client to really understand the wider context, so that it's not so much a heady conversation, that it supports deeper reflection, deeper understanding, and can really link into the motivation for change, whether that's because of the pain that the client is starting to realize they are experiencing, or because of the desire of what they want to experience in their lives, and to recognize that actually that really is connected to my values, what the things that are most important to me, and potentially purpose and legacy.
Yeah. So an example from my own life, if I am feeling unease or dissatisfied or unhappy or frustrated or whatever it might be, it's not just impacting me. It's impacting my family. It's impacting my thought process. It's impacting the decisions I make. If what I'm focusing on is all of the things that are going wrong, it has a knock-on effect in all areas of my life. And if I continue to think and be in that same space, in 5 years' time, if I haven't done anything about it, it's going to probably be worse. So the systemic impact of how I am being right now is going to continue. Whereas if I think about what's happening now, not ignore it, because it's important that it's in my awareness to pay attention to, but I then think about what really matters to me, what's causing this frustration or unhappiness. And if I link it to my values and what's really important to me, then I can make different decisions that are going to have a systemic, a long-term impact on my future in a different way. And of course, there are many perspectives we can look at everything. So systemic questioning is about testing out what possibilities could happen to give you a new view, a new perspective on who you want to be as you're moving forward. What that impact is going to be down the line. So if I continue in my state of frustration or unhappiness, what's the cost, as you mentioned earlier? What's the cost to me? What's the cost to my kids? What's the cost to my husband? What's the cost to my work that I do? You know, we can turn up the pain to make to ensure that the client is aware of these costs, because, you know, many of us don't take action unless it's so painful we know we need to. And on the other side, we can also say, so if you choose something different, what's the impact? What's the change going to be on all of those areas of your life, all of those systems in your life?
Yes, and really appreciate you bringing that in, Marie. Yes, so we really do want to support our clients, and when we're looking at our own lives as well, to potentially recognize, yes, there's pain here, and what is it? Again, what's the wider implications of that, and what is here to learn? What is the wisdom that is here to lean into, to identify, to take away from that bigger systemic pain, and also to support ourselves, our clients, to recognize with that awareness and perhaps with those new choices of being and doing, that you also can turn up the joy by asking systemic questions. What else? What else does this open up for you? What other opportunities are here? Or what else are you becoming aware of now because of this expansiveness or expansive awareness that you're creating? So we can really play with this with our clients in terms of just keep opening up new awareness, to step into the joy, to step into the desire of what our clients really want to experience.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I'm thinking in a supervision call recently, one of the coaches came, and she's actually a brilliant coach because I've mentored her and listened to her work. And she's stalling on getting her credential because of her belief about perfection. And this belief is really strongly impacting her ability to move forward. And the systemic impact of that is the companies she'd like to work with won't engage in her unless she's got her credential. They've told her this. And she's still sitting in this belief that it's got to be perfect before I send it in. So the systemic effect on her business is massive because of this belief she's holding on to. And it was a group supervision, and when we as a group supported her to do systemic thinking about the impact of changing her belief, of course, if she wanted to, and letting go of that perfection, boom, boom, boom. It was amazing to see the positive impact on the whole of her system, on her business, on her income, on her ability to work with clients, on the growth of herself as a human being, on her family, on her relationships. It just got bigger and bigger. And she could see that by holding on to this perfection, what was going to continue. If she continued believing that, what she was going to continue to get. So it was a huge aha for her. And very bravely, she has recognized she's got to stop doing that and choose something different if she wants this beautiful systemic impact to happen.
And so what I could hear in that supervision session was really supporting her to tap into what's most important to her. So tapping into her intrinsic motivation, inspiration to take action, to do something different, to create, really tap into what she wants to create.
Yeah.
as well as turning up the pain. So using that pain and pleasure model to support her. So coaches, we hope that all and leaders and or leaders, as you've listened to this, we hope that this is resonating and is an opportunity for you to really tap into the intrinsic truth of the people that we work with and lead. So the systemic questions might sound as simple as what else? Or what does that open up for you? Or what is the cost of continuing to do that old habit that's holding you back? So there's some questions. Marie, what would you add?
Yeah, thinking about future pacing your questions, when it is as you want it to be, what is it that you want to see? What is it that you want to hear? What is it that you want to feel? What impact do you want to create for others? What's the impact on the bigger, on the small world that you live in? What's the impact on the bigger world? What's the impact of when you're 80 years old? How is this going to this decision going to impact that? What about your, say, if you want to have a family and a grandchildren? What's the legacy you're leaving behind? When you are no longer around and you've made this decision, what's the systemic impact on that? So you can go extremely wide. And you can also then come back to self and say, what's the impact that this is having on your cells, on your breathing, on the way you're turning up in the world, on your thinking, on how you're sleeping, on how you wake up every morning. So you can go wide, but you also can come back to that person and show them the difference that can happen by thinking about the width within ourselves as well as the depth within ourselves.
Yes, absolutely. And having worked with Indigenous clients, I recall working with a particular client who, talking about that future pace. And so bringing in the legacy and the future self, but also going much further out, like hundreds, thousands of years out. What is the impact of who you're choosing to be? And I just recall the magnificence of that client, what they were starting to appreciate about themselves, and the impact that they can create for their future generations way, way out. So it's potentially listening as well to your client and knowing what they appreciate. So listening to the culture, the cultural aspect. And maybe it's the environmental aspect as well. So we can bring in, if we're working with people that we know are passionate about climate change, for example, it's bringing that in. What's the impact on Mother Earth? What might Mother Earth say to you because of who you're choosing to be, etc. So we can get creative. We can be really creative. Listen to what we know and understand and appreciate is important to our clients and bring that in to the session.
And invite the clients to bring their things that we don't even understand into the session, because we don't have to understand what the systemic world of the client is. It's they need to understand it, and they have a lot of wisdom that they can bring in too. So don't be afraid to invite that or contract for that at the beginning of your work, that these are the type of questions you're going to be supporting them to think about in their work. I'm thinking about those people I work with who work in the charity sector, and that there's a big why for them, a big purpose for them. So contracting for not just the work they're doing for themselves, but the wider work is really important for people who are doing magnificent things in the world.
Yes, and so that really does come back to the client leading the session, and so it is removing our assumptions about what is important to the client. And we will hear, of course, if we hear it, utilize it. But potentially our clients may not bring in what is important unless we ask them to, in that contracting phase, what's important to bring into the session that I might not even be aware of, that is important to you, that I might not understand, but is so important to you. What else do we need to bring into the session? So really, again, handing it back to the client to lead.
Yeah, lovely. And coaches, there are lots of wonderful books written by wonderful authors on systemic coaching. And as a coach who might get a little bit intimidated, I'm talking about myself as a new coach, with all the plethora of information available to coaches, just take it easy. Start to dip your toe into this. Recognize if you have mentoring. Invite your mentor coach to pay attention to the systemic questions that you might already be asking. You might already be doing things more than you think you are. So be gentle on yourself. Get curious. Read if you want to. Listen if you want to. Use your way of learning to deepen your own awareness about the world of systemic questionings and systemic thinking.
Yes, there's potentially so much more that we haven't shared here, and we believe that this is a really great foundational start to incorporate into your practice if you haven't yet. And as Marie shared, you may already be doing it, but not aware of it. So thank you, coaches, for listening. We really appreciate your support of our podcast, and please share this with people that you think may benefit from it. And we, again, look forward to your feedback and comments and suggestions.
Thanks for listening. You can find out more about us on our website, www.empower-world.com, and on our social media networks, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Be empowered.